Is the American Radio Relay League insurance policy worth it? I'm Adam Dye, amateur radio call sign N4NT, and I'm here to tell you about my experience and let you be the judge whether you want to purchase this policy or not. So, a few years ago, I purchased the ARRL equipment insurance policy, and I've had that insurance policy for several years, and I used it one time a few years ago. I bought a Yaesu FT847 from an estate sale, and it started to, it worked really well. There's some videos on here that I had made some satellite contacts, but it started to kind of go downhill after a little while. And I hadn't had it very long, but I had added it to my ARRL insurance policy, and I insured it for the rate of what it would cost to replace one. Now, that radio wasn't being manufactured anymore, but I just got on eBay and I looked and see what I could buy one in decent shape for, and that's what I paid the insurance for. And there was some failures that had happened internally due to the previous owner, I'm assuming, attempting to do a Mars mod on this thing, and eventually something happened. Anyway, I sent it to Berghart. And another issue was the buttons were sinking back in the face of the radio, so I was having difficulty pressing the buttons and making them do what they were supposed to do. So I sent it to these guys to see if any of this stuff could be fixed, or determine if I just needed to get another radio, and they were able to repair the radio and send it back to me. And in the midst of that, I turned that in on my ARRL insurance policy. And this has been, I can't remember exactly, but it was around COVID time, somewhere in there. And the insurance company, the representative, I had emailed him, and he said, yeah, scan your repair invoice, send it to me, and we'll send you a check minus your deductible based on what you're telling me. And so they look at it, and they see what the repair shop wrote was wrong with it, and they sent me roughly $350 and paid for the repair. So no big deal. I'd continued to purchase the policy over the years. There was a short lapse once upon a time for like a month or two that I'd forgot about it, and I happened to remember. I think they sent me an email, but it just went in the stack of ARRL emails. So anyway, I renewed the policy. Well, at some point in there, that the company change that is administering that policy. And so now it is the Hanover Insurance Company. And I'm not sure exactly when that change took place, because if you've ever bought the ARRL insurance, or if you've ever looked into it, you can Google search or go to the ARRL website, and it will take you to a site, and everything looks ARRL from just about all the way through it. And it really, for me, it never came up until I had to turn something in for a claim. So fast forward to just a few months ago, late 2025, I was operating my ACOM 2100 amplifier, and all of a sudden, the amplifier just goes dark. So I end up replacing the little fuses, the little glass fuses, in one of them in the back, and comes back on, but then it's giving me these PN07 and fault codes and all this kind of stuff. So I end up emailing ACOM and kind of going back and forth with them a little bit about it to see what was going on. And at this point, I go ahead and notify the insurance company, hey, there's a problem. So they're like, okay, well, send it. You're going to have to send it to a repair facility, get an estimate, blah, 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 and kind of go from there. So it took me a little while to get in with a repair facility, and that's another video I'll probably do as far as my experience with that ACOM. So kind of watch for that coming down the pike. So I find a repair facility. The gentleman who's been extremely helpful emails me back and says, hey, I can probably get to this thing in a month or two. Like I've got a backlog. Okay, that's understandable. There's few ACOM repair facilities, and I think I emailed each one of them, and this guy gave me the best ETA and was also closest in proximity to me, which put the shipping a little bit cheaper. So anyway, I send this radio off, and the technician tells me, he says, based on your serial number, there was a run of bad transformers with these amplifiers, and they were aware of it. But long story short on that, mine ended up being too far out time-wise. It was a 2021 model, and this is 2026 and when all this is going on at this point, and too far out. So ACOM's not going to cover it. They had covered some other folks 2 or 3 years after, even past the warranty, because they had a known problem. Well, the code that it was showing said something about like an arc failure or something like that, which was subsequent to the transformer going bad. So I notified the insurance company. I'm like, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. I'm too far out of warranty. Here's what's going on. Not too far removed, or not too far away from the situation I had a few years ago with the 847 in nature, as far as, it was a failed component due to something outside of my control on a piece of equipment that I'd insured, and had paid premiums for several years of over $250 for everything that I've got. Well, then I get a response back from the little agent guy, which they started with one, they handed me off to another, and they're basically, hey, we can't cover this. We don't cover this. This is a peril that we don't cover. And I'd never heard that in their policy before. Like I said, sent the 847 off a few years ago, and it was a problem caused by a person that, well, it was a little bit of wear and tear, and it was a little bit of a person messing with the radio that I had bought it off of, it was an estate sale, so that person was deceased. But anyway, covered repair, all well and good. Or a few years forward, rather, they don't want to cover what's going on because of, it didn't really even have anything they said to do with, they didn't mention the fact that it was a bad transformer from the factory and all that. They didn't try to throw it back at ACOM and say, well, you should get them to repair it or anything. They just said, oh, this arc fault thing, we don't cover that. Well, that was subsequent to the transformer going bad. And I explained that to them and even sent them copies of emails from the repair facility. The whole thing, they responded back to me and just further explained why they wouldn't cover it. So anyway, what all this amounts to, and what I've done research-wise, is I have found that this new company, this Hanover Insurance Company that's now administering this ARRL policy, has this long laundry list of stuff that they don't cover that pretty much gets them out of anything unless you take a lightning hit. Now, there's probably some other things in there they might cover, but they seem to be few and far between. And I'm not going to make such a long video trying to list everything, but I'm going to pop the policy up on the screen in case. I think you actually have to have the policy to be able to access this information. So I'm just going to show it to everybody. This is the American Radio Relay Ham Radio Scheduled Property Floaters, what this is entitled right here. And the reason I bring it up is just to show you there is a decent list of things that are covered. I was able to put my home computers on here because I use them for amateur radio purposes, antenna rotors, towers, as it says here, data processing systems. So on the surface, everything looks really good because you can put all this stuff on here and supposedly have some coverage with it. But I'm going to scroll down through here, and I know this will be a little bit fast and be hard for you to read everything, but just to give you an idea. And if anyone would like a copy of this, you might be able to get it from their site, but if not, just reach out to me and I'll send you the PDF copy if you want to be able to. I mean, you should be able to read this information before you buy a policy like this. And it basically says all these perils covered right here. We cover risk of direct physical loss or damage unless the loss is limited or caused by a peril that is excluded. So basically, the covered section of this is just a sentence long. The excluded, when you go down through here, and some of this is just some crazy stuff, but I guess some of the topics are so broad, or some of the descriptions are so broad, that it pretty much leaves it open to them to not cover you for just about anything they want. That's my opinion when you look at it. I'm not an attorney. I do work in the criminal justice field and have a criminal justice degree, so somewhat look at these things with a little bit of skepticism. But yeah, we do not pay, and I'm sure what happened to my amplifier falls within something that they have in here. That's the thing. I'm not trying to say that they ever told me up front they would cover something like that and then didn't. It was just one of those things that the insurance company has changed and the policy has changed. The prices went up and the quality and coverage has went down. And that's going to be my review of this. And you can see as I'm scrolling down through here, and here's my take on it. You know, I had an opportunity when I bought my Flex radio and maybe I still do. I need to look in that. But there was you could go in and purchase extended warranty coverage from them that would cover just about anything. And I passed on it because I had this policy right here. And in the past, my experience has been with this policy is they would cover things. I mean, here's my deal. Yes, I have a Flex radio. Yes, I have or had. I still have it, but it's basically a paperweight until I can fork out $1,200 or more to replace the transformer. But yes, I have a legal limit amplifier. I have the Flex radio tuner Genius, the antenna Genius, a whole lot of LMR 400 cable, a hex beam, all this great equipment. And of course, I still build a lot of my antennas as well. But it wasn't like that I just kicked back one day and decided, hey, I want a Flex radio, or hey, I want a amplifier. It took me, I've been a ham 33, 34 years, and it took me almost 30 years to be in a position to buy any of this stuff. And the amplifier I bought brand new, but I had to set aside money for quite a while, and that was a huge, huge thing for me to spend money on. The Flex radio, I bought it secondhand from a friend of mine and got it at a reduced price. The other stuff, was within a little easier budgetary achievement over time, working overtime at work. And anyway, so to make the long story short is, no, I can't just go out and willy-nilly buy some of this expensive equipment. So that's why I purchased the insurance policy, is so I just wouldn't be out on my rear end when something happened. And if that is what you are looking to do, then this is not a good insurance policy for you. If you're just looking for some decent lightning protection, then maybe so. Everything I've read and everything I've researched on this, it seems like they do cover that. But beyond that, this is not what it used to be. It's not a good policy, in my opinion. It was not good for me. So if you're looking to purchase this policy, and if you want a recommendation from me, my recommendation is that you don't. I would recommend, and I was reading online some forums and Facebook posts and whatever, social media posts. And for the amount of the equipment that I have insured, and I don't insure everything, but I insure the big stuff, the Flex radio that I have, the ACOM amplifier, the tuner, maybe the hex beam, a couple computers that are valued over $1,000 that I use in the course of the hobby. Everything altogether cost me around $250 a year to insure. One suggestion that I saw online was, instead of giving these people $250 a year, that you take that money and put it in a separate account, like a money market account. And every year that policy, that premium comes due, if that's what you were going to do, put that money in that account. Maybe even pad it a little bit more if you can. That was a suggestion. My wife works in banking and finance. We had a conversation just prior to this video, and I mentioned the whole, should I do the money market thing, and is that going to be beneficial? And she knows all about that stuff, and she was basically like, yeah, that's what I would do, because they do like about 5% interest. It's like a savings account on steroids. And she was the one that recommended that if I start something like that, that maybe I pad it a little more than just the $250 starting out with. Try my best to get it to around $1,000 to begin with, and then supplement it each year with what I would pay out in premiums. And then later on, something happens to a piece of radio equipment, then I would have it there to be able to take care of it. I'd be self-insured when it comes to radio equipment. So that's my recommendation. You could even reach a point to where if you haven't had to use it in a long time, then maybe you don't have to contribute to it anymore. It kind of has enough in it for the time being, and maybe the interest will pad it a little more over time. So anyway, I just wanted to come on here and kind of give a review. And just to summarize, I give it a big thumbs down to the Hanover Insurance Company and the ARRL Insurance. I do not recommend it. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope this video will either save you from going down the road of this policy, or if you're in the middle of one, maybe make you reconsider and try another path. I know from years of experience as a ham radio operator and a club member that standard homeowners insurance companies, the policies are really outrageous. This is probably the most affordable thing, but they don't seem to be any better at this point. Thanks for watching my video. This is Adam Dye, amateur radio call sign N4NT, saying 7-3.